normally do a Monday episode on a race week. We usually kind of, if we're coming off a non-race weekend, we don't usually do a Monday show. But we're going to call this a sprint episode. Steve, Tim. Holy moly! I just got back from San Jose. Tim just got back from Vegas, and I've been doing. We've both been doing a lot, so I'm a little underslept, Tim. I'm not going to lie. But hey, listen, there's so much to talk about. First, though, Tim. Sergio Perez's name has come back up. Checo apparently in negotiations with Cadillac. Remember Cadillac, for anybody that doesn't remember this, they're the 11th team, and they're coming next year, and they're going to need drivers. We mentioned a little bit about Valtteri Bottas last week testing for McLaren and becoming a part of the driver pool. That's a guy you probably think, hey, maybe he'll end up at Cadillac. Sergio's another one. What can you tell us about those negotiations so far, Tim? What do you know?
At the moment, Adam, it is just rumors. So there isn't anything concrete to report just yet. It makes sense, though, that Sergio would be having conversations with the Cadillac F1 team. I mean, he has the sponsorship, the backing to bring with him. On top of all that, like, he has the experience too, right? I mean, he was in F1 for a really long time, and so he could lend some of his knowledge to a very young team that would be entering Formula One for next season. And again, when we look at Sergio's resume, did he struggle at Red Bull? Of course he did. Now I think people are starting to understand why he was really struggling at Red Bull Racing. And who's to say that if he does come back in a new regulation, he does poorly, right? This could be a regulation change that actually maybe suits him. So, yeah. And when he has a car that does suit him, he's not a bad driver. He gets it done. So I think like one of the things is, definitely is from the driving standpoint. And the other part of it is the financials of it too, right, Adam? I mean, I'm not quite certain if the Cadillac F1 team would need a driver bringing funding. Like that may be something that they might not. Yeah, it may be something that they actually are not looking for. Like they may actually have enough budget to go out, get a good experienced driver, and then partner a rookie with that experienced driver. Now, I mean, with Sergio comes the backing, so that's the question. Would they need that? And then what could a driver like Valtteri Bottas offer to them as well on the flip side? So that is something that, Valtteri is exploring. From my understanding, he has wanted to have a conversation with the Cadillac F1 team. Whether or not they've had those conversations yet, I mean, that who knows at this moment. I think it would make more sense for Cadillac to go after a driver like Valtteri than Sergio, only because he will have been removed from an F1 car for a year.
Yes. Yeah.
So that might be
that's tough.
It is. It kind of is.
I was thinking from the sales perspective, though, Tim, Cadillac is a brand that really wants to change the face of what it is, right? Like Mercedes when they entered Formula One, they were sort of seen as like old man cars. Cadillacs are kind of seen like that. And they do have some performance vehicles, but they kind of largely go ignored by big, car fans on the whole. And it dates back to, that's a generational thing.
Yeah.
But with Sergio, he's got such a stranglehold in the Latin American market, which is a significant one. And, the Mexican economy has been very, very strong for the last decade. And there's a lot of money pouring into Mexico. And there's a lot of people who have come into the ability to buy this. Like the enormity of that market can't be understated. And I wonder if part of this is let's get a guy who is enormously popular in Mexico and elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And as a part of our rebrand, this will kick things off and warm people up to the brand.
I think so. Yeah. I would be curious to know what Cadillac's long-term vision is for exploring the rest of the world, right? Like, when we look at the Cadillac V Series, that would be their performance range of cars. And when we look at, Europe as a whole, and Japan and China, like, would those be markets that, Cadillac would really like to invest
Yeah.
into?
Yeah.
And, I think using Formula One as a sort of a springboard to do all that, makes sense. And, Valtteri's really popular around the world, right? He's very globally, he's very popular.
Huge.
Sergio, again, he's very popular as well. And those are some things that they would have to look at and weigh up as well, right? There are, like you said, like there's the sales and marketing that goes behind this as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what does an American driver bring for them?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
who is that American driver going to be? I mean,
there are a lot of IndyCar names that could fit that bill.
yeah, I spoke with when was it? Oh gosh, I want to say January is with Kyle Kirkwood. He didn't sound like totally interested. It was something that he would look at, but he didn't really sound like he wanted to move away from America. And then Colton Herta, I think, would be the best option. But again, like, I think he needs to finish top 5 in the IndyCar championship to get his super license.
Right.
And so IndyCar is extremely, extremely competitive. Just to crack the top 5 in the drivers' championship is a really hard thing to do. So whether or not he can pull that off, I mean, there's that. And then Jack Crawford, who we've had on our show last year, that would make more sense to me, only because he would most likely be able to accrue those, super license points. He's been testing. He's been doing stuff with Aston Martin. Now doing stuff with Formula E on the Andretti side as well. So he does have that. There is that connection there, even though it's, not really Andretti anymore. It's TWG Motorsports. But I think there are a number of different options that could be interesting for Cadillac for the American driver. But I mean, again, you're such a young team coming in. Is it better to just have 2 seasoned veterans on your team than have 1 veteran and 1 rookie, especially a rookie that could possibly not have done the ladder system? So understanding the tires is going to be challenging. And what they do, that's going to be hard. So I think, Adam, like, there's a number of different things here. Like, if you're a team principal, what are you doing? Because for me, I'm taking 2 veterans.
And I would do the same, Tim. And it's for that reason. I think in Latin America and just Spanish-speaking countries generally, I think Checo's a great pick. He's a stand-up person. He's won races. He's raced for the top team. And he's just a great guy. Like, there's nobody's got anything bad to say about Sergio Perez, right? Like, it's just a good person. Beyond that, Valtteri is fun and has had 8 years of exposure on Drive to Survive, as has Sergio, right? And I think that when you kind of combine those two they're global superstars, globally famous within motorsports. I don't think you need to think too hard beyond that. Those guys, when Checo's at his best and when Valtteri's at his best, they're both good qualifiers too. And for a new car coming in, there's going to be real problems. Like the chances of this car being good are, to me, slim to none. And it's not because they don't have great engineers over there. It's just because until the rubber meets the road and you've got nothing to build on, you really don't know what you're going to get. And maybe they get a Braun GP type bump, but the reason Braun GP was so good, or that story is so good, is because it was such a shock. They were supposed to be bad. Yeah. So all that is to say, I'm with you, Tim. I think you go Bottas, Perez, at least, from the March 31st standpoint that we're at right now, things could change. Yeah. And then you look at the performances of guys like Jack Crawford in 27 or 28, and other American drivers that are going to emerge. I mean, listen, some of the guys that are going to be available to drive in 27 or 28 are 14 and 15 years old now, right? So we don't know. This is where the development curve kind of gets crazy. And we don't know who will emerge from that. And I think Cadillac, if they're smart, they're also going to put together some younger driver programs too and start to develop their own guys just in the way Red Bull does. So all that is to say, go veteran, at least for the first year. I would say 2, and then take it from there.
Yeah, it makes sense, right? I mean, you don't even know what this car is going to be like. It could be a monster. It could be hard to handle. You don't really want to put
You
a
need
rookie
that
in
feedback,
that
right? You need a driver who can say, hey, listen, this sucks. Can you please help?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you don't want a rookie to jump in and get, shocked right away and lose their confidence. So it's not a good place to start a rookie. It just isn't. I mean, if you look at the rookies that are I mean, the smart move is what other teams did this year by bringing in their rookie drivers and giving them the seat time in a regulation that's going to be gone for next year, just so they can get the experience of working with a full team and working with everybody in a car that's like somewhat competitive, in a car that's had the gremlins worked out of it, in a team that understand the regulation. They may not have, like, let's say Sauber with Gabriel Bortoleto. I mean, they may not have the super high budget just yet, but they got the car in a decent type of a window where he can gain his confidence and not get, spooked really and scared and lose that confidence and then have to fight all season to get it back. It's better to introduce your rookie now rather than in 2026. Yeah. And so that's one of the other reasons why I would probably take 2 veterans for a new regulation change, because things are going to be very difficult for this team to start off with. And I think you want the most amount of experience you can get behind the wheel. And so you've got that covered off so you can focus on the things that are happening behind the scenes. You're not worrying about, a rookie driver making mistakes, crashing the car, costing you money. You don't need to worry about that.
And wrecking their own confidence too, right?
100%.
Yeah. Tim, one of the things about Cadillac coming in is they hope by 2028 that they're going to be an engine manufacturer as well, right? And they want to be a factory team, a true factory team, which is great.
Yeah.
The issue will be what happens if this regulation change that keeps getting hinted at happens in 2028. And I'm talking about the rumors swirling about the V10s coming back. The V10 engines, the screaming engines that everybody misses. There are more rumors this morning that because of biofuel development, meaning how much better and more efficient the fuels are becoming, they're much more carbon neutral, et cetera, that we could see a V10 back in the sport in 2028, which means that we'd be switching an engine up for 2026 and then 2 years later doing it again. How likely do you think this is?
I really don't think it is very likely, Adam. I could see us, it does sound like and look like teams are pushing forward into the 2026 regulation. I mean, we don't really know what those are going to be like. I mean, we've said on the show before. I mean, I have my suspicions as to what they could be like. I think it's hard to just all of a sudden quickly change your route at the last minute when you have other teams had to have made the commitment to this new regulation, have invested a load of money into research and development, and then all of a sudden pull the plug on it. You'd have some really upset OEMs, Adam.
Yeah, I think so. It'd be a lot of money. A
lot of money would be lost there. So that's why I don't see that happening. But I mean, if 2026, turns up and these regulations aren't what folks thought they were going to be, then I think they're going to have to think about something, because you're in a really good spot right now. Right at this moment, F1 is in a fantastic position globally. They are in a fantastic position, not only because of, the marketing, the investment that's taken place in the sport, but the competition on the track is the closest it's ever been. And you don't want to go back to what it was like in the early days. Yeah. Or when Schumacher was, running away with things, and you don't want to go back to 2014 when Mercedes had a power unit advantage for
6 years?
5 or 6 years. It was a lot, right? So I don't think you want to go back to that, because you're really going to drive the value of the sport down, because I don't think new fans who are just now sort of dipping a toe in are going to be interested in. We have people, Adam, who watch our show now, and we get comments and we get a lot of DMs and stuff like that of hey, I'm new to Formula One. This is my first year watching. I really like it. It's really interesting. I like your show, blah, blah, blah. And it's that's the new fan that you don't want to lose them.
No, you don't.
So it's F1 is in a really interesting spot right now, because we saw what happened in 2023.
Yeah. Well, Tim, you're right. I wonder if I mean, is there any chance they keep these regulations next year? Is there any chance they don't move to these new regulations? Because where we're at, it's sort of a sweet spot where these teams are all competitive. I guess it's not, eh? They're already spending money to develop.
Yeah, I think like when you look at, I mean, if you look, we can use maybe Mercedes as an example. They provide engines for a few other teams. To name a few. I mean, obviously McLaren, Aston Martin, and Williams. And if you're Mercedes, you're not really developing that engine anymore, and so that takes away all of the pool of engines that you would have in previous years start to build up for the following season. So you don't really have those engines right now that are being built up to distribute. And then you look at Mercedes also looking at their 2026 power unit, working on it, getting it functioning, and then having to replicate that for their new customers. So again, McLaren, Williams, and who's the other one that's coming in?
Aston Martin right now, but it's
but the Aston's going over to Honda,
right? Is Cadillac not running?
No, no, Cadillac's going Ferrari. I can't remember. I want to say Alpine. It is Alpine.
Oh, Alpine's going Mercedes. Yes, of course.
You have to build those new engines for those teams as well, which obviously is going to take time to get those ready. And so you can't just then start building your old engine again for the new teams. Like it doesn't. I just don't think there's enough behind the scenes people power to get that off the ground and suddenly revert back to like the old engine regulation. I don't see that happening. But who knows? I mean, this is Formula One. They're able to do some really incredible things. But, like I said on the podcast, few podcasts ago, I mean, if they stick with this regulation that we're in now for another 2 years and switch to V10s, I mean, sign me up. Like,
oh, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
I'm in. I'm just totally in for that. But again, right, I'm one of the originals to F1. I remember the V10s. I raced in undercards of F1 races where I was close to the V10s, and I was 16, 17, 18, and like those cars to me were the best. So yeah, Adam, I don't know. You're probably asking that question to the wrong person.
Yeah, well, we know which way you would go if it was up to you, which is I agree with you, man. I think I'd rather keep the competitiveness in the sport because inevitably whenever there's a change, one team jumps ahead and everybody else is sort of left behind. But Williams, there's reports that Williams are not going to develop their car very much the rest of the year because they're focused on 2026. And I think for a lot of teams, that's going to be the case. But they're very encouraged by what they're seeing for 2026, which is why they've actually now doubled down on doing more against the 26 car to make sure that they're ready. It's exciting. And by the way, I don't know if you saw this, Claire Williams is now a ambassador for Santander, the bank, which is sponsor of Williams. Kind of cool for her.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it's great.
That. I mean, I think, watching Claire in Drive to Survive, I was just like, the sport needs her. Like,
oh yeah, yeah. Really her insights are amazing.
Yeah, like she was fantastic. I thought she was great. I thought she was one of the best parts of the new season of Drive to Survive. She's really, really good. Very knowledgeable, obviously. Speaks well, but knows her stuff. I really like Claire. I was always a big fan of hers, and I think she should be doing more with an F1 for sure. That'd be cool.
Same here. I totally agree with you. Yeah. Now, lastly, before we kind of wrap this sprint episode up, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that Yuki Tsunoda has not gained any points for Red Bull yet. Is his seat under threat? No, I'm kidding. That's the joke going around online right now. It's kind of funny. Haas revealed their Japan livery, and it's got
it's cool. I like it.
It's got the cherry blossom leaves on it. Looks beautiful. Obviously, we know that Red Bull is going back to some sort of all whites for this. Have you heard anything about how Yuki is handling his first few days at the Red Bull big team? Is he doing sim work? How's that looking? Like, that's got to be the most anticipated story of this entire weekend.
Yeah, I think like coming in for Yuki, Adam, like there are I think in any ways there has to be um a goal of how you want to attack the weekend. I
Mm-hmm.
think understanding the car is obviously paramount, but how do you, as a driver, go about doing that? I think free practice one is going to be very important for Yuki. Like that's going to be a very important session to understand what the car is and play around with the different directions you may be able to go in, and also understand the tire compounds and how the car reacts to it. We saw in China um, their car is actually really sensitive to tire compound change. I mean, it went
Yeah.
to the C2 tire in their final stint, and Max had some decent pace on that compound, and so those are all little things that uh, they're going to have to. Uh, he's going to have to understand and look out
Mm-hmm.
for in a short amount of time. It's a good thing he knows the track. I mean, that's great. So he doesn't need to worry about learning the track. He needs to worry about learning and understanding the car. I think setting your expectations quite low is probably the best.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go in the media and say like, yeah, I'm going for podiums and all this other kind of stuff. It's
Not here
like,
to make friends.
yeah, no, my message would be, I'm here to learn. This is going to be a learning weekend. If I can score a point, some points, that'd be great. But this is what I'm here to do. I'd keep the expectations very low, which I think he should probably do because of the car. I mean, I think he has said that like he's driven the car in the sim, and I'm paraphrasing, but to him it didn't seem that hard.
Right.
But when you get to the car to the track, I mean, it's a totally different story. So I think for Yuki, it's just about trying to learn as much as you can, keep the car on the track, and finish the race is going to be very important for him. Just
That will be
getting the
the key.
mileage, yeah,
I hope
getting the mileage.
it would be great if we came away from this weekend with Yuki in the points. It's
Oh
entirely
yeah,
possible though
sure,
that Liam Lawson beats Yuki Tsunoda this race, and it won't be
yeah,
Yuki Tsunoda's fault, right?
yeah,
Max,
yeah, absolutely, Adam. Yeah,
Helmet Marco was saying in the media that Max is really upset with them about moving Liam Lawson down, not because he doesn't like Yuki Tsunoda, but because he thinks it's unfair and that the car is bad. And a big concern for the team going forward is if the car continues to be bad, they could lose Max. And
well, we talked about that the last time out, like
yeah,
on our
so
last
it'll be
show.
fascinating to see where they take this car over the next few. I don't want to call it races because they're not even going to get an upgrade until probably Miami, right? So it's not, or like a major one.
Yeah,
So
it
we'll
has to
see
be,
what happens.
but like that, I think that's what they need Yuki for, is to like help them understand the direction that they're going in with the car.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's so many questions with it. I mean, it's like we've talked about since Bahrain and Australia, Adam. It's like we even said on here, like this car's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good at all. Like, there's a reason we're saying that because we
Yeah.
know. So it's like,
Yeah.
so I
It's
don't
not great.
honestly, Adam. It could be a tough weekend for him. It really could.
Also, this morning, breaking news: Lawrence Stroll is upping his stake in Aston Martin by 52.5 million pounds. From what we're reading, this would
So that's
result.
Aston Martin Lagonda, right, Adam?
Yeah, Lagonda, meaning the Aston Martin brand.
Yeah.
So the company. So the company has sold its shares in the Aston Martin F1 team. However, Lawrence owns part of Aston Martin, the brand, and then owns the F1 team. So this is sort of like taking money from one pocket and putting it in the other. But it looks like Lawrence is, like I said, Tim, buying Aston Martin Lagonda, and it basically he's going to make an offer to buy out the rest of the shareholders. So he would be either the majority or the sole owner of Aston Martin, the brand, which has had issues for years in terms of its finances. There's never been a question that Aston Martin cars are some of the most beautiful on the road. In previous generations of them, there have been reliability issues and problems getting parts and that sort of thing. And I think Lawrence, part of his thing is getting in there and cleaning that up. But the brand has been doing better in the luxury car market, but this comes at a time when you got U.S. auto tariffs, 25%. You've got rising interest rates around the globe. People, even rich people have a little less money to spend. But this is a kind of guy who is smart enough in business to wait that stuff out, and he's got the finances. What do you think of this move?
I think it's a good move for the brand. I think it's hard to say whether or not the company would then be moved back to being private
Right.
ownership.
Yep.
And I don't really understand enough of that to really talk about it. But I think if you're a car enthusiast, a racing enthusiast, Lawrence is very passionate about the brand. So, I mean, it only makes sense that you would want to venture down that road of trying to acquire more shares of the company, because I think he went from 27.5% to 33% of share ownership of Aston Martin Lagonda. So, yeah, Adam, I think like it's a good move for him, and and I think at the same time, the sponsorship of the team, which would be from Aston Martin as well, that stays until 2030, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So that keeps them around regardless.
And I think Lawrence owning both sort of, guarantees things.
Yeah, and it's not just like he has his consortium, right? Yatri consortium. So I think there's, obviously there's more than just him, right? Like he has other people that are invested in all this as well. But yeah, he would be the he would be the biggest shareholder of all of it. But at the same time, seems like a smart move, like in my opinion. I mean, like we've seen him do stuff similar to this, like in the clothing company or clothing market back in the day, right, Adam? Like this isn't new to him. Like he knows how to make this work.
Yeah.
And if he's able to breathe some life back into Aston Martin, the car brand, which it looks like he's started to do, I mean, that's good. Like I'm a fan of the car brand. I always was since I was a kid, and I've said this on this show in past episodes. Like DB7 was the car of my dreams, still is. Yeah, if he's able to turn the company around, I mean, that would be very impressive.
He certainly has done it before. There's a story that's out there that apparently he was already wealthy at this point, but he and Tommy Hilfiger got into a bidding war over a very rare car, and he ended up losing the bid to Tommy Hilfiger, but developed a relationship with Tommy, and that's what brought Tommy Hilfiger to Canada, which is, along with Pierre Cardin, that brand, that's a big part of where that wealth came from. So this is a deal maker. In the real sense, and somebody who has turned around businesses before. So we'll see what happens.
I think also Michael Kors as well. I think he
brought Michael Kors in too.
I think he played a big role in turning them around as well.
Yeah. So this is
it's not this. That's what I was saying. Like this doesn't seem like this is new to him, right? Like I think
that's his business, right?
Yeah.
That's what he does. So I'm curious and excited for the future of that brand. I think it's going to be really exciting. Yeah, so Tim, we're going to catch up again Thursday. And we're going to do a full race preview and of course, Tim on the sim, which we love.
Yeah.
So looking forward to it. And until then, have a great week and we will talk to you Thursday.
Thanks, buddy.